They come from every corner of the world, with powers we only dream of. Here to battle the forces of nature, known for their strength, their boldness, their intelligence, and their courage. Some are witty, some are sweet, but most of all, they are Silky Momz.
Try to be like your mom, anatomically correct. And so we, from very little, it's a penis and it's a vulva, and that's how they refer to them, their private parts.
Yeah.
Hi, and welcome back to Silky Momz. I am Sydney.
And I'm Amber.
And today we have a guest, Shane. You may have seen Shane before on our very first episode, so we have brought them back. Also, disclaimer, just as we normally do, we're just a couple moms with the power of Google and our own experiences. And in Shane's case, read books. I am not that mom.
True. But if you need medical advice or spiritual advice or any of the above, go see a professional.
Go see a professional. Or read books.
Or read books.
Good books.
Good books. Good books. So today's topic is hard discussions with your kids and how to navigate those waters. And I am lucky enough to not have to have had a lot of those with Madeline being so not yet anyway. But I have painful childhood stories of those conversations.
Right.
So which one is where do babies come from?
Oh yeah.
So the way I was taught was my mom, I remember this so clearly, is my mom came downstairs one day at her house, and I was probably maybe 8, 9, and so my brother would have been I don't know, 11 or 12, maybe. I think I could have been
so like almost middle school,
almost middle school,
grade-ish.
I'm pretty sure that's what our ages were. I just remember the situation very well. And she came downstairs just randomly and was like, "Do you guys know where babies come from?" And I was like, and my brother was like, "Yep." And she's like, "Okay, you can go upstairs." And I was like, "Oh no." And so my mom got very specific down to anatomically correct.
Oh my gosh.
The sperm goes in here, and very, I don't know what she read or
That's
what
so
her coworkers had told her that day to make her come tell me these
Yeah,
things.
it must have been very inspired.
Maybe.
Right.
Yeah. So
Wow.
that was fun. And then later on, we had, they separate the boys and the girls in school, and you get to watch those horrifying
and you have
videos.
the period talks.
And you have the period talks and you're going to grow hair and you need to start using deodorant and those fun things.
Man, I just remember cringing just so hard through all those conversations because I already knew a lot of it on my own, just just self-discovery, knew those things. So just I was just sitting there ugh.
Oh, I was in La La Land. I knew nothing.
The whole time. I was really little when I was taught because my mom had all of her kids almost 4 years apart.
Oh, wow.
And I was a very questioning 4-year-old. So I knew the jig was up because I was like, "What's going on here, Mom? What is happening with this?" And she was like, "Oh, well, that's it's gonna be your baby sister." And I'm like, "How?" And she's like, "Well," so we went to the library and she checked out a bunch of anatomy books and just explained it from point A to point B for this little kid who was in preschool, almost kindergarten, pretty much.
God bless the public library.
Yeah.
Giving sex talks to everybody.
I don't remember how I came
Really?
to
Oh, you
know. No,
Wow.
I must have, maybe it was traumatic enough. I just blocked it out because I don't remember. I was looking through you guys' outline. I'm like, I don't recollect anything.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know if it's just buried under everything in my recycle bin that's up in here, but
Recycle bin.
That's so funny. So the second question under that same topic is, how are you planning on teaching your kids? What are you going to tell them? Because you've got some older kids. You
I
got one
do,
that's right
like,
there pretty much.
Luckily, I've not had to have that conversation with Maverick, or at least I don't think. But I don't know if Kimberly knows or not.
Right. Kimberly's about that age, though.
Oh yeah, and she's gotten her period, so
Right.
she has had that experience, and she got it at our house. And I don't know if we I don't think handled it the best way, because her dad found out before I did. And so,
yeah.
and Milton is very direct with his questions, and it
Yeah.
can be very intimidating. But if you don't know him and you're looking out here, you're like, oh my gosh, but that's just how he talks.
Right.
And so I think sometimes the kids forget that. So it was not the greatest. But I mean, we got through it. It's part of life. Hopefully she'll just talk about it in therapy later on in life. I mean, because here's the thing. I got my period at my dad's house, and my parents were divorced.
Yeah.
And I'm still not like super close with my stepmom, but I had to like go up with like show her my underwear, because it wasn't clicking in my brain of what was happening. And so, and my whole family was at the kitchen table. We were playing gin rummy, because we played a lot of rummy.
Right.
And like everyone, and I went up to my stepmom and goes, "Is that blood?" And my entire family is looking at my underwear now.
Right, of course.
And she like casually gets up, takes me to the bathroom, and hands me a pad. She goes, "Do you know how to use this?" And I was like, yeah.
Maybe.
And it still wasn't clicking of what was happening.
Right.
And that's all she said. And then she left.
Oh no.
And I was like,
but why am I bleeding?
Okay. And then I kind of started putting the pieces together.
Right.
And then my mom called me later on that night.
Oh
and
man.
Then the next day she took me shopping. And I'm like, apparently womanhood gets you a shopping spree.
Wow, yeah.
So
Nice. I don't know. I was lucky. Nope. I was at a friend's sleepover when I started my period.
Dang.
So I had like just one of their pads that they had. Thankfully, they had already had their period. So they pretty much just explained it to me as a friend. And I came home and I was peachy. And my mom's like, "Why didn't you tell me?" And I'm like, I was hanging out with my friends, man. I don't know.
My mom just tried her hardest to teach me how to use a tampon.
Right.
And it's the OB kind, so you don't have the applicator. And I'm like,
it's just the fuzzy little cotton stick.
I struggled for way longer than you need to, I feel like. But I mean, it was my first time. I'm like, I don't know. This doesn't feel right.
So I had this friend in high school. She was very naive, but the sweetest person on the face of the planet. Very artistically talented. She went to Bethany here in Lindsborg, and just the nicest person. And I taught her a lot of real life things, because she was from Missouri, and so she came here for school, and it was just really great that she had access to my parents, because my mom helped her out with a lot of things. And when I came home one time, we took her to the lake with us, and she goes, "I've never used a tampon before." So we were like back and forth. And you have to remember, we're like 18, 19 years old.
Yeah.
And I was trying to tell her, okay, so you just do this. And then she would poke her head out of the bathroom. She goes, "Am I supposed to leave the plastic thing in there?" I'm like, no, don't do that. So it was just kind of one of those, like, you don't know.
A strange
unless
topic. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
And I think my mom taught me, because we were going to see a show or something, and we had to be very formal, and I was wearing a dress or something, and I didn't feel comfortable wearing a pad. She goes, "Well, today's the day."
Right. Here's a tampon. Figure it out. Right. So your kids are a little bit older than ours. Have you had to have the sex talk yet, or the different private parts talk?
Yeah, so I try to be like your mom, anatomically correct. And so we, from very little, it's a penis and it's a vulva, and that's how they refer to them, their private parts.
Yeah.
As for sex talk, a little bit, I'm trying my best not to make it this big dramatic thing,
scary
but
thing.
a casual conversation that we can just talk about. And I tried my very best to be very open to questions, and just answer in a way that's educational but not judgy.
I remember feeling weird trying to like talk to my mom or ask her those things.
I didn't ask her one bit,
because it just it gives me the ick. Like, so I don't want my kids to feel the same ick when it comes to stuff like that. Like, ask me whatever you want. Like, I'll give you the answer.
Yeah, and I always try to tell them, like, what sex is for in like
Yeah.
in situations that
Right.
it's with a loving partner.
Right. Right. And there's different reasons to have sex. It's not always about making a baby. Sometimes it's just for fun. But like it's got to be somebody who treats you well.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So this is kind of a question that I'm sure is way easier for you than us is how do you explain different sex relationships? Because like I know some kids, they're just born so innocently, they don't they just see a couple people together and they don't care, but like at some point they're going to be told by a friend or by literally anyone else that same-sex couples aren't right. So like how do you breach that topic?
Yeah, I mean, well, I used to think that same way, is that I thought, same-sex relationships weren't okay.
Right.
And I remember the first time it came up with my sons, probably like 4 years ago, and we were at the zoo, and I don't remember what happened, but they just asked me a question, and I'm like, yeah, it's the same, for like a man can be with a man and a woman can be with a woman. They're like, what? I had no idea. And I think it's just because we don't expose our kids to these different things. If they're showing only, straight couples, they're going to think that's just all there is. They don't
just how
think,
the world works.
There's these options out there. So it's just, I think, healthily exposing our kids to people who aren't like you is the best way to show them that these things
that
exist and that they're
exists.
okay. Yeah.
Okay. That's true. That's very fair. What about you? Have you had any bumps in that road yet?
No, only because like Milton's sister's a lesbian. And so it's just natural. So she, her and her partner, had a baby, Lovely, and Lovely and Madeline are only like 2 days apart.
Oh, that's
and
perfect.
so it's just normal
A part of life.
It's just normal.
That's cool.
And so it doesn't really, I don't know, affect us.
Cadmus's aunt is a lesbian as well, and she's got a partner, and they're both absolutely great. So like Cadmus is already exposed to at least like lesbian women couples, and he doesn't care.
Yeah, it
he
is
loves
what
them
it
both
is.
just fine.
Yeah.
So it's good that we have a little bit of exposure built in. I feel like that takes the burden off of us a little bit, trying to like
Explain.
hunt those people down and be like, can I please introduce my child to you? I want him to know what lesbians are.
Yeah.
What do you do? It's like, if you don't have that like built into your family structure, like do you just like approach some couples and just be like, I want them to know that this is okay? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, and part of that is, so for instance, and this is kind of when it really clicked for me, is when Madeline started getting older. Milton and I, before we leave anywhere, we kiss each other at least 3 times.
Right.
So it's peck, peck, peck. We leave. We love you. Love you. Goodbye.
Right.
And so Madeline started wanting to kiss both of us goodbye, and that was just natural.
Yep.
And so she sees affection as that, as just, I love you. I feel loved by just doing that. And so like I kiss her, Milton kisses her, like it's just, it's how it is. It's how we express love.
Cool.
And so I think that helps also. It's not like breaking barriers, but it's showing love in a correct, not necessarily correct, because there's not a correct way to really show. I don't know. That's a whole ethereal thing, but I don't know if that was the right wording. But just
showing love in a loving way.
Yeah. I don't know how to explain it.
Right. But well, the very last question in there, which we kind of talked about a little bit, is how do you get to your kids first before they have a preconceived notion about what is right when it comes to sex and relationships, whether they're straight or not?
Oh gosh.
Like, do you try to preempt it and catch your kid before they start dating and be like, this is what love looks like? Or do you wait until they get into a relationship and you're like, ugh?
Right. I mean, the best thing you can do is you can't lecture them into knowing the right thing.
Yeah,
all you can do is just be an example of what that is.
Yeah.
And just gently guide them.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like everybody's first relationship it either wasn't a relationship or it sucked, like it was like a little kid relationship, where it didn't really matter, or it was pretty traumatic and you were like, wow, dating sucks. So like
I was just always that girl that always had a boyfriend of some sort. So it was just like, I didn't like being alone is my thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
That makes sense.
Makes sense. Sydney doesn't like being alone. Anyway.
So our second topic.
Second topic. How do you explain different race? Which is really interesting for our family because Milton's black. Madeline is 100% his kid, looks very white. But Kimberlyn and Maverick are very like mixed, like they look very mixed. And so our family picture looks really odd. And so it's just, we have people ask like the craziest things. Like someone asked one time if Madeline was mixed. And I was like, yeah, like there's just a weird
like a supermarket.
Yeah, it was at the
worker?
supermarket. Like just random person at the supermarket was like, she mixed? And I was like, yeah.
Weird question.
Weird question.
Right.
But then there's also times where like, this is the most embarrassing story ever and I'm going to tell it. But I have a hard time explaining it to where like there was one time when we were at the Lake of the Ozarks, we were at the grocery store. I had Madeline with me and it was kind of deep into summer and she gets super tan in the summer.
Oh, yeah.
And the poor lady behind the deli that we encountered with, she's older. Just imagine like the cutest grandma on the face of the planet. This was that lady. And she goes, oh, she's so tan. You guys, are you guys, outside a lot? And I was like, oh no, she's half black. Just randomly said this to this lady.
Yeah.
No. And she just stared at me and I was like, I could have said anything.
Right. I could have just been like, yeah, she's tan.
Yeah. I could have just said, yeah, we're outside people. That's all I mean, we're at the lake. Everyone's tan. I could have said anything else. But no, I said, she's half black. I'm like, yeah. How am I explaining that to, like, if she was older and understood what I was talking about, that would have been a very interesting conversation for me.
Right. Well, I got some years to learn before then.
Yeah. I'm still working on it.
The first question under there is, how were you taught? And did anybody say anything that was racist to you growing up that like you recognize now is just like wild?
I got a lot of stories. I could be here all day if you guys want to go first.
Well, mine is my dad told me and my older cousin who lived with us. We took her out of foster care, so she was living with us. We were only like 3 or 4 years apart, but he both told us that we weren't allowed to date black men.
My parents told me that.
Right.
In middle school.
Yep. And I was just like blown away then. And even now I'm just like, wow, that's just insane to me that somebody would say that to their kid. Like I would never tell Cadmus that he wasn't allowed to date another person of any color. Like that just is unfathomable to me that my parents said that to me. It's wild. So I really wasn't taught. I was taught other colors are bad. Just date white people.
Wow. So I am this is kind of goes back a little bit. So my grandpa, my mom's dad, was adopted, and he is on his birth certificate. It says Syria. So his mom was Syrian, and then later found out just a few years ago he's actually Lebanese because Lebanon had not broken away from Syria yet when he was born, so they had to put Syria on his birth certificate. So, but growing up, we just knew that we were part Syrian.
That's so cool.
It is. And then my dad found out and called me raghead.
Oh my God.
Every single time I had a towel wrapped around my hair out of getting out of the shower.
I would be so mad.
Yeah. And I didn't realize like how offensive that was until I got older because I was like in middle school and high school. I didn't really get it.
Right.
Yeah. He would call me raghead every time I got out of the shower and had a towel wrapped around my head. He also worked with, his dad, my grandpa, would say some uncolorful things every once in a while. So I think that's where my dad gets it from, because my dad used to, he doesn't anymore, but back in the day growing up, he would say things like he worked with a lot of Hispanic and Latina people, so he'd call them specs or spics or whatever that is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so that's like how I grew up.
Rough. Yeah, my neighbors were black, and we used to play with them all the time because we lived like in the country a little bit. So like they were the only ones we could hang out with. And my dad was like, "Oh yeah, I like black people. You just can't date them."
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. My grandpa was in World War II, and so he would refer to Japanese people as Japs.
Yeah.
Or, coloreds. Or, I'm from Phoenix, and so you hear wetbacks or whatever. Yeah. And so, you get...
It makes me cringe a lot.
Yeah.
So how would you teach your kids? Because obviously you've got a pretty blended family going on over there. So.
Well, and I even had this conversation with Milton before Madeline was born, because all the marches and Black Lives Matter really got hitting hard when I was pregnant with Madeline. And I told him, I go, how am I supposed to have this conversation with her? How am I supposed to teach her? Like, this child's going to be half Black. Like, how are we supposed to have, and I was really focused on me, and I'm like, I don't know anything. Right. Like, how he goes, I go, and I asked him one time, I go, well, how do you feel about all this? And he goes, I can't explain it to you because you've never had that experience. And I'm like, I very get fair. That. Right. That's very fair. Like, I'm sure there's experiences that he's had that I can't even fathom about.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if I'm going to be able to. I might just be like, you got to go talk to your dad. This is totally on dad right now. He's going to have to figure this out for you.
I mean, sometimes being the best ally is just listening and letting them talk. So it's a good start.
Yeah. There is a book out there called Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man that go over all of that.
Writing that down.
Yeah.
Right. There you go. Because, I kind of struggle with the same thing. Thankfully, Barnabas and I are of lighter skin tone. The only thing I've got going on for me is being Native American. So sometimes if I stand in the sun too long, I get really dark. I don't sunburn. But that's really all about what we've got going on for us. But, to teach our kid to be a good ally, I think, is going to be where we struggle the hardest, because I'm definitely one of those people. Had I not been pregnant during Black Lives Matter, I would have been out there, because I have a ton of people that I love that are of different skin color, and I would stand in front of them in front of the cops any day.
Yeah.
And I want my kid to do the same thing, if you have a Black friend, stand in front of them in front of the cops, because they're not going to shoot you.
Yeah. There was, do any of you know who Matt Rife is? The comedian. So he's getting really big on TikTok, but he had a show where, and he, according to him, grew up with a lot of Black friends, and one of his show, he was talking about that, and he was doing some crowd work, and one of the guys pulled out a card, and it was a white privilege card.
Oh, man. Yeah. Yep.
And said guy said he got it off Etsy from a Black man who sells these to white people for $13.
I love it.
Because it's the 13th Amendment.
Oh my God.
Good for him.
So it's just one of those touche.
Right.
Touche. But
so when your kids are younger, mine doesn't have a concept of color yet, at all. He started preschool. There's a Hispanic boy, there's a Black boy, there's a little Latina girl. So they're all very blended in this class, and he just doesn't care. And I am so afraid that when he gets older, somebody's going to say something, and suddenly he's just going to become aware,
Yeah. Breaking the glass.
Right. Is there any way I can make him not just notice?
I don't think there's anything that we can do.
In a perfect world, they'd just grow up and never notice, right? Because then you wouldn't have to teach racism or anything, because it just wouldn't exist. So I don't know, it terrifies me that someday he's just gonna it's gonna click, and then there's not gonna be much I can do except for apologize profusely that the world sucks, you know? Like,
yeah, unfortunately exists. And
right.
Shane, have your kids ever brought this up to you at all?
sometimes like would be like, a kid in their class or something. And I'm like, it's you with darker skin, basically.
Yeah.
They to respect everybody and that we are just all humans. And yeah.
I think like and I ask Milton a lot of really like ignorant questions sometimes because it's a whole different culture that I don't know about. So like for instance, when we first got together, he put a do-rag on. I'm like, what is the purpose? Like, can you please explain this to me? Because I've only heard what the white people say and it's not great. And so he's like, no, it actually like has a function because, like for instance, he just got cornrows. And they put product in your hair and it helps basically set it. And so it does it so you can keep your braids in for longer.
Right. Keeps them from getting
it's literally
frizzy
self-care.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It's literally what it is. And it's crazy how white people have just made this into like a whole dramatic thing of
I've seen some like
they
really
be stereotyping.
Yes,
I've
stereotyping.
seen some really powerful stuff about like moms doing their like mixed children's hair, or even like a black adopted or half siblings hair. Like obviously you've got white people hair.
I have very white people hair.
So like when Madeline needs her hair done, is it different? How much did you have to learn?
Well, I just have to learn curly hair. So she has my consistency of hair, but it's curly.
Okay.
Now Kimberlyn has
like coiled hair.
But it is the consistency of like her mom's.
Oh, okay.
To where it's very soft, it's not coarse, but it's super kinky.
Yeah.
And so for instance, she'd got her hair braided a couple weeks ago, and so got extensions in and got braids that come down to here for softball. Because otherwise it's in a ponytail. Because as 11-year-old, she brushes it, puts it in a ponytail because that's what's just easier for her. And so it's just it's a whole different learning process. I'm trying to practice braiding Madeline's hair. I would love to practice on Kimberlyn's hair, but she won't let me, which is fine. But it's like it's an art form. Like I don't know if any of our listeners have ever watched people braid. But it's go on TikTok and find some of these.
Some of those ladies are so fast.
Oh, they're so fast. And it'll still take 6 hours. I know. That's the crazy part.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating. And I've tried to do I'm trying to learn box braiding right now.
Ooh,
but it's such an interest
it takes
your
more than
fingers have to be so aligned with each other. It's so hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
Well, more power to you. Our break topic time.
Yeah, break topic. So we will be right back with our summer plans and backyard upgrades. Okay, welcome back. So Amber talked a little bit about this on our last episode about her above ground pool.
Yeah.
Do you want to give us the whole what happened? How did this happen?
I was at work Friday afternoon, like 3-4 o'clock. It was the end of the day, whatever. Barnabas calls me and he's like, hey, I just found a pool super on sale at Walmart and I bought it. And I was like, oh, sweet. Okay. Well, here's the deal. We're going to need a filter and we're going to need a pump and we're going to need like a little gazebo tent to put over it. And we're going to need a cover and we're going to need all the chemicals and we're going to need like a ladder to get in and out of it. And he's like, okay, whoa. I just bought the pool.
Did you not know all these things came with the pool? You can't just buy the pool. If it makes you feel any better, we have a hot tub but no way to get in it.
So he goes and gets all the stuff that he needs to put together. I get home and it's like our yard is not flat. Our yard is very sloped. And he's got it like I don't know, like a quarter of the way full and like on a tarp, and I was like, this is not gonna fly. This pool is just gonna roll down the hill. So we had to go out and buy sand and some plywood, and then like dug out part of the yard and leveled it and put the plyboard down and put the tarp down and then put the pool back on it, then refilled it, then put the gazebo over it, and then it was a long Friday.
That's a lot of work.
It is a lot of. We had a above ground pool for gosh, I don't know, like my entire childhood, like at least 15 years probably. My mom had a hard sided above ground pool with the deck and the whole thing, and it was a lot of work.
Yeah. We didn't go that big. We got one of the ones that has like the inflatable ring around the top where you can fill it and it kind of keeps itself together, because Cadmus is a little small for like a big pool yet, but it was still a ton of work.
You know what we had growing up before the above ground pool? A stock tank.
Oh, I've wanted one of those forever.
My mom we were so like, I hate using the term white trash, but it really was. I told my mom, because my mom used that term a lot growing up, and I told her I hated it, and she goes, well, what if we just call it NASCAR? And I was like, that's fine. We can just call it NASCAR. Anyway, still not any better. No, but we had a stock tank, and it lived on our house on Highland that we grew up in. It was probably like 5, maybe like 3, 4, and 5, 6.
How'd you keep the water from getting so hot?
It was plastic. It was a plastic top.
Cool.
If I remember correctly, it was a plastic one.
Nice.
And there was no pump. It was just a little bit of chlorine every once in a while, and that was about it.
That's cool.
It was living our little lives. So we have like in our backyard, we have a it's a giant trough is what it is. And we originally got it for the dogs. But they don't really use it. We did something else. And so now I just fill it up every once in a while, and Madeline's just playing it. So
that's cool.
Call it a day.
That's cool. So what do you have in your backyard? Do you have anything cool in your
busy.
backyard?
Oh, no.
Are your kids not backyard people?
Well, for 2020, we were backyard people because we had nowhere else to go. So we would just go and play in the hose, basically. And then, brings all the worms up. So we'd play with the worms.
I was a sprinkler kid, too.
Yeah. We would, and during 2020, we went to, we found a creek and we went swimming, and they got to learn what leeches were. So that was fun.
That is so funny. No, so I, at the end of last year, I put all of our summer stuff in a tote. So it would be ready for this year.
Yeah.
And somehow that tote made its way outside with the lid off, and I found it when I was cleaning out the garage, and it got me really mad because I can't find like the little like shark like splash pad that I just bought at the end of last year.
Right.
I'd gotten the slip and slide was still in there, and we used it in like that April day that it was like 90 degrees out. I got it out, and then I dried it off, and then the next thing I know,
it's gone.
It has like holes in it, and
no.
Don't you have a big inflatable now?
Yes, we do have.
That's an upgrade.
The bounce house. We have a little bounce house that we got off Buy Sell Trade that we will put the sprinkler up, and it can get wet and stuff. But I got a little tiny pool that you blow up or whatever too. I need to restock our water gun supply because one of them just broke, and
oh man,
yeah, so I need to find some more water toys to keep the kids busy. But no, it's kind of what it is.
Yeah. All right.
And Madeline doesn't really like the sprinkler.
Yeah, Cadmus isn't either. He doesn't like water getting splashed.
Yeah, and that's her thing. Like she has no problem like jumping in water. Like when we were at the lake, she was completely fine, like floating and hanging out. But sprinkler, like, or she thinks it's rain.
Yeah. It was always too cold for me.
Too cold, the sprinkler? Even if it was like 90 degrees outside?
For some reason, it was always just freezing cold.
Yeah.
I'm having a really hard time picturing you actually like going through a sprinkler now that you say that.
Right.
Like, Gus, sprinkler kid. Huh. All right. Well, let's get back kind of into our topic.
This is going to be a doozy of one.
Yeah, because I know absolutely nothing. I just find that out about motherhood like every day.
Right.
I'm like, oh yeah, I know
what I'm
everything
doing.
about, and I'm like, no, I know nothing. I am a child myself. So and the next topic is, what if your kid comes out? Like, how does that conversation like even start?
Right. Because, like, I would want to be like, oh, I love you no matter what, or I always knew. And I don't know what is, like, damaging psychologically or not, you know?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm trying to show support at the same time. I don't want to be, like, suffocating about it, you know?
Yeah.
I had a friend, her son was in, I think, middle school at this time, and he came to her and was like, hey, I think I'm gay.
Right.
And she's like,
yeah,
okay.
And most kids don't know right off the bat
and
either.
she had this she told me about this conversation she had with him, and she's like, okay, cool.
Right. Yeah.
Like, here in the part that really stuck out with me about this conversation, I'll probably get some of it wrong, but is that she was like, if that's what you are, great, that's totally fine, but if you want to just keep that to yourself for now and explore that and really kind of figure out who you are, that's totally fine. If you want to tell people, that's completely fine. But just remember that once you tell people, like especially in this society now, if you say, hey, I'm this,
Right.
just remember they're going to think that
Right.
for
Forever.
a very long time, especially
Right.
now that you're in middle school and then in high school. And that's really rough.
Right.
So it's totally okay. I'm 100% okay with it, with you being this person, whoever you are. But just remember that, like, once you make the decision and start coming out to people, that's what they're going to think of you. And she had that conversation with him, and I was like on the fence of if that was the right way
Is that,
or
like,
the
scaring
wrong
him
way.
out of saying anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I understand her point, and like kids are brutal.
Yeah.
And like, but I just, I don't know. I had very mixed feelings about that conversation. And no one like prepares you.
Yeah.
Shane's prepared. Shane's got a book.
Shane's got a book open already.
Yes.
And so I just,
Yeah.
it's a conversation I never thought like,
Right.
and then I go back, I watch a lot of comedians, because then there's a comedian called Josh Wolf, where on stage he talks about his daughter coming out to them at the dinner table along with their son, telling them he's in an Armenian gang. And he's like, great, if that's who you are, awesome, but no more sleepovers. And it's just,
Yeah.
like, how do you have the, like, it's like one extreme to the next.
Right.
Yeah. Well, again, I think it's all about, like, it's same with like the sex talk, trying not to make it like this huge dramatic thing.
Right.
Because I know it's been that way in the past for people, because that's a big deal to just come out of the closet. That's very vulnerable, because you're putting yourself at risk
Yeah.
of just being hated or ridiculed or kicked out or shunned by your family.
Right.
So providing that safe environment in your home and just exposing your children to other cultures, other sexualities, other genders, other everything, ethnicities, and just showing them these are options. And I think also just brushing up on yourselves on, like, what are all the different sexualities?
Yeah.
Do you know that there's a spectrum of asexuality to it? Just so when your kid says, hey, I'm not sexually attracted to anybody, does that make me weird? You're like, no, actually it has a name, and then it's this. And just, and brushing up on what gender identities are like, and, exposing them in just gentle ways, even with like Disney movies, we got Strange World with it, which does a wonderful job.
I have not seen this movie, and apparently it's gotten a teacher in Florida like a lot of flack.
It did.
Wow. And so I need to watch this movie.
Yeah.
Great advertisement for Disney on this whole media, but
yeah, right. But that's such a good one. But so like 2 of my kids have already come out to me.
Right.
And my daughter is 7, and one of my sons is 10.
Right.
And so, they'll ask us questions, because I am in a queer relationship. And so they're exposed to that, and they're exposed to different gender and everything. But they just ask us questions, and I'll just do my best to educate in a way that isn't like, well, this is right or this is wrong,
Right.
but just in a way of like, you're a teacher. You're just educating. You're just telling them this is what exists. This is what it is, and letting them kind of make up their minds and not trying to influence them in any way.
Yeah.
But both my daughter and son have said, or like one of our conversations we've had, my daughter's like, yeah, I'm like totally bi. And I'm like, great.
Good for you. Yeah.
Cool.
Right.
That's awesome.
Right.
But she's also recently was like, she's like, yeah, I'm gay,
Right.
but I want to be gay when I'm an adult. And I'm like, you can be gay now.
Right.
And she's
Yeah.
like, no, I don't think I want to be gay now. I'll be gay when I'm an adult. I'm like, okay. You're
Sweet.
7,
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
Great. Awesome.
Be what you want. And so like with my son, he recently was like, yeah, I like both boys and girls. I'm like, cool.
Yeah. Give it a
Yeah.
try. Right. Yeah. I mean, like, I have dated women before, but like, I'm obviously in a straight relationship now. So like, my worst fear would like Cadmus being one of those like sad TikTok kids who's like making a video about how he can't tell his mom that he's gay, and he's like so afraid of it because like,
What side of TikTok are you on?
right, I just want him to be able to tell me.
Man.
I
Yeah.
don't want him to be a scared teenager who doesn't know how
Yeah.
to, say that without, being worried that we'll hate him, because that's not gonna
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah. But I think just kind of addressing it in a way that's casual and
Right.
accepting, and in a way that we can celebrate our children as they just tell us who we are, and believing them when they say who they are.
Yeah.
Because like you mentioned I'll love you no matter what. But
Right.
would we say that to a boy that says, I think I like girls? Well, I love you no matter what.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So like,
We
I don't
wouldn't
want
do
to
that because that shows.
Is that highlighted in your book
It
somewhere?
is. You want me to read it?
Gosh.
Okay. So this is from Untamed by Glennon Doyle. And they're watching this show, and the parent on there, the daughter comes out, and the parent's like, well, we love you no matter what. She's like, dang it, no, I wish they didn't say that, because it shows that they're disappointed.
Yeah.
That
Yeah, I
they did,
never
that the
thought of it that
child
way.
didn't meet their
Right.
expectations.
Right.
Of like, oh, I'm
Man.
so sorry you're not straight, but you know what? I love you no
anyways.
matter what.
Right.
Anyway.
Right.
Yeah, so she goes on and she said, it's not the I love you no matter which of my expectations meet or don't meet. It's my only expectation is that you become yourself. The more deeply I know you, the more beautiful you become to me. If someone tells you who they are, consider how lucky you are.
Sorry. My voice. Oh, crap. And I deleted the voicemail. Sorry. My phone's going crazy over here.
If someone tells you who they are, consider how lucky you are to be graced with that gift.
Right.
So yeah.
That makes sense. It's kind of like when women lose weight and they're like, "Oh, you're so beautiful now," but like I wasn't beautiful 20 pounds ago, right? Right. It kind of feels like it's in that same vein almost to me. Like you do love them no matter what, but it's not that you didn't love them previously or love them any differently now. It's just
See, I knew there was going to be things in
Right.
this episode that
But I
I
just
was really going
hadn't
to
even
make me
considered.
think.
yeah. Yeah.
Dang.
So we kind of talked about it a little bit, but like, what about if your kid's on the fence? Like, they're like, I don't know what I am, but I'm not straight. Like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you just kind of let them flounder and figure it out and be like, I'll support you? Or
I
like,
think you can just be like, I learn with them.
right.
And
Yeah.
you can just be like, offer like, hey, let's
Go to
look
a
it
gay
up.
club. Let's do it. Sorry. Those are my intrusive thoughts coming out. It's been a long day.
Yeah.
But I mean, just learning with them and not pretending like because you definitely don't know
Right. Yeah.
everything. But
Right.
just being open to support them in exploring this and just learning along with them.
Yeah.
Even if I think a lot of struggle in the queer community is that, you know, it does shift for people. So like they could be like, well, I only, you know, I'm straight.
Right.
Because society told them they're straight. And then they're like, well, actually, I think I'm bi.
Right.
And so then they kind of go into that identity. And then they date a girl and they're like, actually, I'm really fucking gay.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I never liked men, not once. Society told me to like them. I actually don't. And so just being open to change too, and things fluctuating as they learn to just learn more about themselves and grow.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely experience based. I told Barn already that if he leaves me, I'm never dating men again. So
Oh, yeah.
I'll probably never date a white man again. So
fair.
saying it's true.
So the last topic, we got to at least kind of sort of keep it short, but how would you raise your boys to respect and treat women as equals? It's going to be an interesting one.
I think also to add on top of that, how do you raise your girls to stick up
Yeah, for themselves.
for themselves?
Right.
And how to, like, if something happens, how do you tell them to, like, what are those steps? Like, I've heard where you teach your daughter, hey, tell them once. If they don't stop, make a scene and tell them again. And if it really doesn't stop,
Right.
then you beat the crap out of them.
Right.
Or like tell a teacher or whatever. But like how do you even start that?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I don't remember my parents having this conversation. I remember Happy Bear coming into elementary school and telling us about good touch, bad touch.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm so terrified to screw my kid up that I'm just like, we'll figure it out. Like,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah, I know.
I don't know.
And it's not, I feel like it's more a boy's problem than it is a girl's problem. Like, girls shouldn't have to go that far. Like, we should have been teaching our boys from the jump that, like, this is how you respect women. Don't pull on their bra strap until they have to punch you in the face.
Yeah.
You know? Like, like,
fair.
so I try hard to, like, keep that in mind that someday Cadmus is going to be an emotional, very hormonal driven child, teenager who doesn't know what to do with his body other than be a little jerk to people. So
Fair.
it's like, like I have to like think about, like, you know, because in high school it was always boys will be boys, or they pick on you because they like you, and like I don't want Cadmus to pick on girls because he likes them, you know, like that's not the way you show people you like them.
Yeah.
Have you had any of those conversations with your boys?
Oh, yeah. Well, and just like, you know, we need to like teach consent and boundaries, and what does healthy consent and boundaries look like?
Right.
Because, you know, consent isn't just a yes, it's an enthusiastic yes.
And a continual yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I've had this conversation because my son was like, I have this crush. I wrote out this note to ask her out. Will you read it over with me? What do you think? Do you, is it okay if I date? And I'm like, I'm totally cool with you dating. You're 10, but you know, I'm cool with you dating. But what you really need to understand is consent.
Yeah.
And we can demonstrate that to them every day with how we interact with them by not forcing them to hug grandma or their creepy uncle.
Yeah.
To, you know, even for me, I don't just go up to them and kiss them and hug them. I ask for permission. I'm like, hey, you're crying. Is it okay if I hug you right now? And if they say no, I say, that's fine. That's okay. And they're learning boundaries and consent and autonomy in that way by you respecting them in this way as well. But yeah, we've had that conversation of like, if you want to hold her hand, do you just grab it or do you ask? And if she says, sure, do you still grab it? No, you don't still grab it, because that means no.
Yeah. She's unsure, so no.
Just learning like emotional intelligence and, you know, to be aware of these things that, you know, people might say yes, even though they don't actually mean yes.
That's very fair.
Oh man. Well, to wrap up our conversations up today, what has been the hardest conversation you guys have had with your kids?
Definitely online safety.
Oof.
Ooh, yeah.
I think has been the hardest one.
Yeah.
Of like, I know you're on this thing. I know people might be trying to reach out to you.
Right.
When they ask you for a picture of you naked, that's not okay.
Yeah.
This is not safe. That just informing them the dangers of just people out there who would abuse them is the hardest conversation I've had.
Oh man. Thankfully mine's just super little still, so like we haven't got into a lot of this stuff, but he's starting to like gain existential knowledge because we were going to bed the other night and he was like, "Do I have to go like school tomorrow?" And I was like, "Yep, you'll have school again tomorrow." And he goes, "Many again." So he's starting to realize that like we just have to do the repetitive thing every day, over and over and over again. So like we're starting to gain some of that existential crisis consciousness, you know? So it's only a matter of time before it gets harder.
Yeah, we're kind of in the same boat of, I think the only thing that I've really like have to explain to Madeline is if like she loves to help me cook. I love, like, we're a frying family, so we have hot oil like all the time, and we're cast iron, and like so it's super uber hot.
Yeah.
And so there's been times where like I've seen her reaching for something and I overreact, but that scares her. And so I've had to explain to her, like, I'm not mad at you. You're not like having those conversations with her is really hard because I'm like trying to calm myself down and her.
Right.
Or, gosh, I had another one. I lost it.
Madeline and her online stuff.
Oh, Kimberlyn.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, since I am like not a key parent, I can't really have those conversations. Like, I don't want to overstep boundaries because I try. So on that, so for Mother's Day, she gave me this card and it was great. And Kimberlyn loves to Google things and then find something she likes and write that down. So she does that a lot of like with cards. So she'll be like, things to say to your stepmom. And so she'll write that thing down. So she did that with a card. And then at the very bottom, I knew it was her because this definitely didn't come off Google. P.S. She doesn't try to be my real mom. I just died.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, well, I mean, I guess I'm doing my job.
Right.
I mean, I'm trying. So that's really hard. Because like I want to have that conversation, but it's not necessarily my place now. If Milton said, "Hey, we need to have this conversation with her," I would do that with him. But
I feel
there's
like
only so much I can
it'll
do.
also probably only be a matter of time before she like comes to you at least for advice on her own volition.
Hopefully I haven't scared it away too much.
Right.
I think that's kind of like, because I will stick up for her if I know Milton's wrong, or if he's right, I'll stick up for him. Like I play both sides. Right. Just because that's the right thing to do, because a lot of times when I was growing up, like that didn't happen for me. And so just her knowing that like I will take your side, I will say, you know, you're right, your dad's wrong. Right. And in those situations, and things like that. But I don't know. It is what it is. Being a stepmom's hard.
Yeah, it's not easy.
So, all right. Well, we will see everyone next week again. Follow us on social media, the very few followers we have on Facebook. I promise we'll update it someday.
Ooh, we can add the books that we talked about.
Yes, we
today
will
to
add
our Amazon list.
The books to our Amazon list.
Yeah.
And maybe some other key articles that we find with Shane's guidance.
Right.
So, but until next time. Bye.
Bye.